The diplomatic incident. The Galactic Alliance vessel Harmonious Convergence hung in space like a glittering jewel, its crystalline structures refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Inside, however, the atmosphere was anything but harmonious. Commander Maya Chen pinched the bridge of her nose, counting silently to 10 as the latest round of alarmed chittering subsided across the conference chamber. 6 months of careful diplomacy was unraveling before her eyes, all because Dr. Harrison had absent-mindedly mentioned human regenerative capabilities while discussing medical exchange programs. You regrow your skeletal components. The Velderan representative, a being resembling a luminescent jellyfish suspended in an anti-gravity field, pulsed with agitated light patterns. Naturally, without technological intervention. Well, yes, Dr. Harrison replied with a bemused smile. Broken bones heal. It's not instantaneous. Takes weeks or months depending on severity. But it's hardly remarkable. The translation matrix struggled to interpret the cacophony that erupted from the 17 alien delegations simultaneously. Maya caught fragments like biological impossibility and evolutionary nightmare before Ambassador Krill of the Taraxian Collective raised all 4 of his appendages, commanding silence. Humans, he began, his deep voice rumbling through both natural sound and translation devices. Perhaps you fail to understand the gravity of what you casually reveal. Your species casually survives conditions that would exterminate civilized beings. You ingest substances that would be classified as chemical weapons on most worlds. Your endurance alone, your ability to simply continue moving long after cellular energy should be depleted, would qualify you as apex predators on 89% of life-bearing worlds. Lieutenant Jackson Torres, the security officer Maya had specifically chosen for his diplomatic temperament, failed to suppress a snort. With respect, Ambassador, we're hardly predators. We're explorers, scientists. Earth hasn't seen a major conflict in generations. The Navari delegate, whose species resembled articulated crystal formations, rotated its sensory cluster toward Torres. Your historical records indicate otherwise, Lieutenant. Your species waged war upon itself repeatedly, with escalating destructiveness, before achieving unity. You call the period before your unification the survival crisis. Ancient history, Maya interjected smoothly. Like many spacefaring species, we overcame our violent tendencies through cultural evolution. Did you? The question came from Ambassador Thrix of the Entoli Communion, a swarm intelligence housed in what appeared to be thousands of copper-colored insects forming a roughly humanoid shape. Or did you simply redirect those tendencies? Your recreational activities include simulated combat, endurance trials that would kill most sentients, and deliberately exposing yourselves to environmental extremes for enjoyment. Maya resisted the urge to sigh. First contact had seemed so promising when the Alliance probe discovered human transmissions and dispatched a diplomatic vessel. The initial exchanges had been cautious but cordial. Then the Alliance representatives had actually met humans in person, and things had quickly deteriorated into what her grandmother would have called a whole mess. I believe we're getting off track, she said. We were discussing potential technological exchanges that would benefit. Speaking of technology, interrupted the Morrigan delegate, a creature with iridescent scales and multiple eye stalks, we have analyzed your vessels. Your propulsion and communication systems are adequate, but your defensive capabilities are concerning. Dr. Harrison frowned. Concerning how? The Intrepid is a scientific vessel. We have standard shields and point defense systems, nothing aggressive. Yes, the Morrigan representative's eye stalks swiveled independently, but your life support redundancies, radiation shielding, and structural integrity fields are all designed to standards that suggest you expect to survive situations no reasonable species would encounter. That's just good engineering, Torres muttered. Ambassador Krill's sensory frills flattened against his body, a sign of distress, Maya had learned. The Alliance Diplomatic Council has been deliberating your application for associate membership since your delegation arrived. While we recognize humanity's scientific and cultural achievements, there are concerns. Maya straightened her spine. What kind of concerns? Classifications, primarily, Krill continued. Most Alliance species evolved on worlds ranging from Class 3 to Class 5 on the Planetary Habitability Index. Your Earth is a Class 9. A what now? Torres asked. A death world. The Navari delegate chimed in, crystal structures vibrating slightly. A planet with environmental conditions so hostile that the evolution of sapient life is considered statistically improbable. Earth isn't hostile, Dr. Harrison protested. It's quite lovely, actually. Your world experiences extreme temperature variations, catastrophic weather events, tectonic instability, dangerous radiation levels from your primary star, aggressive microorganisms that constantly evolve to bypass your immune systems, and predators that would be classified as apex threats on any Alliance world. Frick said, the swarm shifting in agitation. You evolved not despite these conditions, but because of them. Your adaptability, durability, and aggressive problem-solving are direct results. Maya leaned forward. And these qualities make you fear us. The uncomfortable silence that followed was answer enough. The Council proposes certain safeguards, Krill finally said. Humanity would be granted limited Alliance membership with restrictions on military vessel deployments, colony expansion, and technology exchange until a probationary period confirms your species' stability. Quarantine, you mean? Torres said flatly. Prudent caution, Krill countered. Your psychological profiles indicate a species that evolved to overcome challenges through what you term creative problem-solving. But what our xenopsychologists identify as aggressive pattern manipulation. You alter your environment rather than adapting to it. You see obstacles as things to be defeated rather than accepted. Maya felt a headache building. Ambassador, with respect, you're describing basic intelligence. All sapient species modify their environment. Not to your extent, the Velderan pulsed. And few view the universe as a series of problems requiring solutions rather than a system to be maintained in balance. Before Maya could respond, an alarm blared through the conference chamber. The Alliance representatives reacted with various expressions of surprise and alarm in their respective physiologies. A holographic display materialized in the center of the room, showing a star system Maya didn't recognize. One of the planets blinked with an urgent red signal. Forgive the interruption, Krill said, his voice now tense, but we have an emergency situation. The Vex Dominion has breached the defensive perimeter around Outpost Cygnus. They've already disabled the primary defense grid. The Vex? Dr. Harrison asked. A hostile species from beyond Alliance space, the Morrigan delegate explained, eye stalks rigid with alarm. They raid border worlds for resources and, occasionally, biological specimens. How many civilians at the outpost? Maya asked immediately. The Alliance representatives turned to her with expressions her cultural training interpreted as surprise. Approximately 12,000, Krill said after a pause. Primarily Velderan and Navari research personnel and their families. How long until your defense fleet arrives? Torres asked. 6 hours at minimum, Fricks answered, the swarm buzzing with agitation. The outpost will be overrun before then. Maya exchanged looks with Harrison and Torres. A silent communication passed between them, the result of years working together. The Intrepid can reach the outpost in 2 hours at emergency thrust, she said. We're equipped with a full complement of defensive systems and medical facilities. You're offering assistance. Krill seemed genuinely confused. After our discussion, those are civilians under attack, Torres said simply. Of course we're offering assistance. Your vessel is scientific, not military, the Morrigan objected. The Vex have disabled an Alliance defense station. Your ship would be destroyed. Dr. Harrison smiled thinly. Remember all those concerning design redundancies you mentioned. They're not just for show. We'll need all available data on Vex vessels and tactics, Maya said, already standing. and direct communication with the outpost, if it's still possible. The Alliance representatives stared at the humans with what Maya's training suggested was bewilderment. You would risk yourselves for Alliance citizens, citizens of species that just expressed fear of you? Krill asked slowly. Maya raised an eyebrow. Isn't that what allies do? As her team moved with practiced efficiency toward the exit, Maya heard Thrix murmur to Krill, perhaps we should reconsider our assessment of their aggressive tendencies. Krill's response followed her through the door. Or perhaps we should be more concerned about them than we initially thought. The unexpected saviors. The Intrepid dropped out of FTL with a shudder, its hull creaking under the strain of the emergency acceleration they'd maintained for the past 2 hours. On the main view screen, the Cygnus outpost came into view, a beautiful crystalline structure now partially obscured by the looming shadows of 3 Vex vessels. Status report, Maya ordered, eyes fixed on the tactical display. Outpost shields at 17% and failing, reported Torres from the tactical station. Vex vessels are deploying boarding shuttles. I count at least 20 already attached to the outer habitation rings. Dr. Harrison looked up from her console. I'm receiving fragmented distress calls. The Vex have breached multiple sections. They're rounding up civilians, primarily children and researchers. Ambassador Krill's face appeared on a secondary screen, his expression grave. Commander Chen, the Alliance Council appreciates your swift response, but we must advise caution. The Vex overwhelmed through superior numbers and ruthless tactics. Your single vessel cannot. With respect, Ambassador, Maya interrupted, we're now the only thing standing between those civilians and whatever fate the Vex have planned for them. Advise the Alliance fleet to hurry, but we're engaging now. She cut the transmission before Krill could respond and turned to her bridge crew. Options. Torres studied the tactical readouts. Standard approach won't work. They outnumber us 3-1, and those vessels mass at least twice what we do. But, he paused, a smile slowly spreading across his face, they don't know what we're capable of. Explain, Maya prompted. During the diplomatic discussions, it became clear the Alliance species have significantly different biological limitations than humans. Most can't handle atmospheric pressure changes, radiation exposure, or extended periods of high-gravity stress. Dr. Harrison nodded enthusiastically. And they've never encountered a species from a Class 9 world before. They don't know our actual tolerances. They only know what would kill them. Maya understood immediately. So we give them a demonstration of human ingenuity combined with Death World biology. Chief Engineer Patel, are you with us? The comms crackled. Always, Commander. What insanity are we attempting today? 30 minutes later, the Intrepid accelerated directly toward the largest Vex vessel, appearing for all intents and purposes like a ship making a desperate, doomed attack run. They're taking the bait, Torres reported as warning alarms blared. All 3 vessels are repositioning to intercept. Boarding shuttles are returning to their ships. Perfect, Maya said. Status of Team Alpha. In position, came the response over comms. EVA suits at maximum extension. Ready on your mark. Maya took a deep breath. Begin Operation Trojan. The Intrepid suddenly vented plasma from its starboard engines, appearing to suffer catastrophic damage as it tumbled toward the outpost. The Vex vessels adjusted their approach, weapons powering down. Why waste energy destroying a crippled ship? Meanwhile, on the dark side of the Intrepid, 20 crew members in specialized EVA suits detached from the hull and propelled themselves toward the outpost using minimal thrust to avoid detection. Team Alpha has reached the outpost, Torres reported several tense minutes later. Breaching through the emergency airlocks now. Dr. Harrison monitored the life signs of the EVA team. Their suits are compensating for the radiation spike, but they'll need to find shelter soon. Maya nodded. Phase 2, Engineer Patel. Releasing emergency buoys now, Commander. The Intrepid ejected what appeared to be standard emergency beacons, which scattered toward the Vex vessels. The Vex, detecting only minimal power signatures, ignored them. Buoys in position, Torres confirmed. Activating now. The seemingly harmless beacons suddenly pulsed with electromagnetic energy, temporarily disrupting the Vex ship's sensors and communications. Full power to engines, Maya ordered. Evasive pattern Delta. The Intrepid surged back to life, its damaged engine suddenly functioning perfectly as it executed a series of maneuvers that would have caused severe internal injuries to most Alliance species. But the human crew, secured in high couches with specialized breathing apparatus, merely endured the crushing pressure. Team Alpha has reached the central habitat ring, Torres reported, his voice strained under the gravitational forces. They've engaged Vex boarding parties. The view screen showed footage from the team's helmet cams. The human security personnel moved with startling speed compared to both the Vex invaders and the Alliance civilians. Where the Vex relied on powered exoskeletons for strength, the humans, even encumbered by EVA suits, outmaneuvered them in the outpost's emergency low-gravity conditions. They're herding civilians toward the emergency shelters, Dr. Harrison reported. But there's a problem. The atmosphere in sections 12 through 17 has been vented. The civilians can't cross without environmental protection. Maya frowned. What about our team? Their EVA suits can handle vacuum for another 40 minutes, Harrison confirmed. But the civilians? Understood. Torres, bring us alongside Section 12. Prepare for emergency docking and civilian evacuation. As the Intrepid executed a dangerous approach to the damaged outpost sections, the Vex vessels recovered from the electromagnetic pulse and began pursuing. They're charging weapons, Torres warned. Hold course, Maya ordered. Team Alpha, status. We've secured approximately 300 civilians, came the response, punctuated by what sounded like weapons fire. But we're pinned down near Section 11. The Vex have deployed some kind of energy barrier between us and the remaining civilians. Maya studied the tactical display, weighing their options. Dr. Harrison, can our EVA team survive crossing through that energy barrier? Harrison analyzed the readings from Team Alpha's suits. It's generating radiation levels that would be lethal to most Alliance species, but our suits could handle brief exposure. It would be risky, Commander. Ask for volunteers, Maya said grimly. The response was immediate. Every member of Team Alpha volunteered. What followed would later be described in Alliance records as improbable heroics born of evolutionary extremophilia. The human EVA team crossed through energy barriers that should have cooked them alive, carried Alliance civilians through sections exposed to vacuum, and engaged Vex warriors in close combat despite being outnumbered. On the Intrepid's bridge, Maya coordinated a series of maneuvers that kept the Vex vessels off balance, using the outpost structure for cover while they evacuated civilians section by section. Alliance fleet just dropped out of FTL, Torres announced 3 grueling hours later. They're engaging the Vex vessels. About time, Maya muttered. Status of evacuation. Complete, Harrison confirmed. All surviving civilians are either aboard our vessel or secured in the intact sections of the outpost. Team Alpha is returning now. The Intrepid disengaged from the outpost as Alliance warships swarmed the Vex vessels, which quickly retreated back toward the system's edge. In the aftermath, Maya found herself once again in a conference room with Alliance representatives, though this time their demeanor was markedly different. The Alliance Council extends its profound gratitude, Ambassador Krill said formally. Your crew's actions saved over 10,000 lives. We simply did what needed to be done, Maya replied. That is precisely what concerns us, Frick said, the swarm forming what Maya had learned to recognize as an expression of deep thought. You did not hesitate to place yourselves at risk for beings you had just met, beings who had expressed fear of you. That's just being human, Torres said with a shrug. Indeed, the Navari representative chimed in. We have reviewed the recordings from the outpost. Your team endured conditions that would have killed any Alliance species. You crossed radiation barriers, survived in vacuum far longer than should be possible, and demonstrated physical capabilities that confirm our classification of your species as derived from a death world. Maya tensed, preparing for another round of restrictions and concerns. However, Krill continued, "You used these capabilities not for conquest or dominance, but for protection. You placed yourselves between danger and those who could not defend themselves." "The Council has reconsidered humanity's application," Thrix announced. "We still believe certain protocols are advisable, given your species' unique capabilities, but we no longer support restrictive quarantine measures. In fact," the Veldaren pulsed gently, "we would be interested in learning how other species might adapt to some of your resilience, if such knowledge can be safely shared." Maya allowed herself a small smile. "I believe that can be arranged, Ambassador. After all, we came in peace. And we are grateful," Krill replied, his sensory frills now displaying patterns Maya recognized as respect rather than fear. "Though I suspect the rest of the galaxy may still flinch when humanity arrives, at least until they come to know you as we have begun to." "That's fair," Maya said with a laugh. "We can be a bit much at first impression." "Commander Chen," Thrix said, the swarm forming what might have been a smile, "I believe that may be the first understatement we've heard from a human." As negotiations resumed with a new foundation of mutual respect, Maya couldn't help but think that perhaps being the terrifying Death World species had its advantages after all, especially when it came to making a memorable first impression.